This week saw a lot of madness. A bearded man, Avi Silverberg, entered last week's Heroes Classic Pro Weightlifting Tournament in Lethbridge, Alberta, after identifying as a female. Silverberg bench pressed almost 167 kilograms and beat the current Alberta women's record by about 45 kilos. That existing record, which was also held by a biological man who identifies as a trans woman, was 124 kilos. The holder of the former record, Anne Andres, also holds the Alberta women's record for the deadlift at 245 kilos. Over the last 4 years, Andres has won 8 of the 9 women's competitions she has entered. It looks as though Silverberg entered the competition to draw attention to the foolishness of the Canadian Powerlifting Union's policy about how to include transgender people. That policy provides that a person should be able to participate in the gender with which they identify and not be subject to requirements for disclosure of personal information beyond those required of cisgender athletes, that is, biological gender athletes. Nor should there be any requirement for hormonal therapy or surgery. Now, it is an uncontroversial matter of science that the reason separate women's and men's sports were established is because there are biological differences between men and women. Men have greater bone density, greater muscle mass. Testosterone makes a huge difference, but it's only part of the story. There's a reason a woman would be disqualified as a drug cheat if she took testosterone. It's a performance-enhancing drug. But apparently that doesn't matter if you're trans. Now, don't think the same madness isn't playing out here in Australia. Moira Deeming was suspended this week by the Victorian Liberal Party Room because a protest she helped organise to push back on the deletion of what it means to be a woman in our society was crashed by undesirables. In doing so, they have effectively punished this woman for the actions of a group of uninvited, unconnected men and taken away her platform to fight for common sense and women's safety. And when I hit the streets of Brisbane suburbs this week, I was struck by how people would in the usual way be friendly and willing to chat until I asked about fairness in women's sport. I can't show you most of the footage because it wouldn't be fair to the people involved. But the vast majority of people shut down, freaked out and ran away when they heard the topic, about 70%. The pro-trans activist types, though, weren't shy. It took a lot of courage for someone to speak up with a pro-woman point of view. Just a few brave people were prepared to tell me what they thought on camera. Here's what they said. Should biological men who identify as women be allowed to compete in women's sport?
I don't see why not.
Yeah? Even though they might have different strength levels and different bone density?
I mean, there should be some sort of test they should do to be able to qualify for it, I reckon.
I don't see why not. I think everybody should be given a chance.
No.
And why do you say that?
Biologically unfair.
Yeah.
Why?
Because why not?
Well, they've got different muscle density and different bone density, different strength levels.
Well, a lot of them are on wait, did you say biological men?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them would be on estrogen or, other hormone changing things.
No.
I think, we should be doing what we can to make sure that people who do identify as a sex different to what they were born as feel as included in society as possible.
I think they should allow.
Yeah? Even though the bone density and muscle strength is completely different?
Yeah, I think they should allow, because if they want to be in that category and they are biologically changed, whatever it is, so I think they should allow.
Don't know, I think it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah, I just don't think that's very fair at all, really, yeah.
I think probably not, due to just the anatomical build, if you like, and the genetics behind that.
At the end of the day, I reckon that all people should compete and should accept people for how they are.
Absolutely not.
And why do you say that?
Because men have a physical advantage over women in every department.
You can see how this skews the debate, right? While there's a couple of brave souls who would speak up, for the most part, it was only those who were pro the inclusion of trans people in women's sport who got their voices heard. The left have been so effective in shaming and shutting down people who think differently to them that there was a real fear to even politely and respectfully discuss this subject. Now, don't judge people for being afraid to speak about this stuff. If you run a business, you can be targeted for stating your views, even if you are kind and respectful but acknowledging the facts. If you work in the public service, look out. Put it on social media and you'll draw the crabs. So I do get the need for that reservation. But this is how the left wages the culture war and wins. Now, of course, people who struggle with their biological gender should be given our support and our respect. They are human beings and they should be included in normal society and treated fairly. But fairness is a two-way street, and it is not fair to prejudice half of the population to coddle a handful of people. That's not proportionate. It's not fair physically in sport. It's not safe. Ask the women who play women's AFL against biological men and cop disproportionate injuries. Or ask the female prisoners who live in fear because biological men convicted of sexual offences against women are now kept in the women's prison because they've changed their identity after conviction. But more disturbingly, it's just another way in which we are being asked as a society to affirm something that just is not true. We should treat a man who wants to wear a dress with decency, but he's not on any day of the week, a woman. It's like asking us to agree that 2 + 2 = 5. It just doesn't. But would you believe that the Ontario Mathematics Coordinators Association has now decided that 2 + 2 no longer equals 4? And to say so is a covert white supremacist dog whistle instead of a basic mathematical truth. That's a quote. These are the people responsible for ensuring teachers of maths from kindy to year 12 in Ontario, Canada, are up to the job of teaching kids just like yours. Well, thank heavens they know how to decolonise education. It's just a pity these maths teachers can't count. Now, if you love literature, you'll remember this passage from 1984, the classic Orwell novel, and it's being read by US blogger Isabel Brown.
In the end, the party would announce that 2 and 2 made 5, and you would have to believe it. It was inevitable that they should make that claim sooner or later. The logic of their position demanded it. And what was terrifying was not that they would kill you for thinking otherwise, but that they might be right. For, after all, how do we know that 2 and 2 make 4? Or that the force of gravity works? Or that the past is unchangeable? If both the past and the eternal world exist only in the mind, and the mind itself is controllable, what then?
No wonder Western civilization is in decline with this stuff. We really have reached a critical point. If you want Western culture to survive, you have to show up and refuse to say and do that which you know to be false. All of these little things are eroding one very big something. The culture of Western civilization is the reason we have been an overwhelmingly free, fair, peaceful and prosperous and tolerant society. Is it perfect? No, but it's truly the best model we have ever found, despite all of the experimentation we have seen around the world for all of history to date.